So we can get started.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar on changes in the input tax credit, especially on the availment procedures. Compared to last year, there has been some changes. So we are going to today see what are the additional changes. Of course, I'll also brief you a couple of the old provisions, but today's webinar is on availment, re-availment, reversals, and the reporting of the input tax credit. My name is Venugopal. I'm a practicing chartered accountant, and I should also thank GST for bringing the sessions on awareness on the GST, right? Along with me, I also have Bharti, who would walk us through to how these changes can be implemented through GSTs and what are the features that are there. Roughly, we will complete this session at around 4 o'clock. Feel free to put your questions in the chat box. And in case if you want to ask, unmute yourself, you can raise the hand and we can take up those questions also. Yeah. With this, let us start the webinar. The brief agenda is, I'll quickly walk you through the various provisions of the law that are there standing today, which are the very important changes, because the concept of input tax credit, if I have to say from the implementation of GST, there are two main concepts. Point number one, it's a seamless flow of input tax credit. That's how it has been conceptualized. Second, you have a right over the input tax credit after it has been availed. So whether it is a conditional right, whether this is an unconditional right, this also has been disputed. So, but today, various provisions are clearly saying that just because there is a balance in your electronic credit ledger, it doesn't mean that you have an unavoidable circumstances can also come and stop it. In fact, the first effect of it was notification 20/2018, where the inverted duty refund for the textiles has been brought in. Suddenly, the government said, whatever is the balance in your electronic credit ledger standing as on 31st July 2018 will be lapsed. It's like overnight, that asset has become zero. So, and these views have been upheld by the courts, saying that the balance which is there in the electronic register is not unconditional, it is a conditional right. Okay. Let's start with understanding the provisions of the input tax credit. Firstly, on the eligibility and conditions. Initially, there were 4 conditions for availing input tax credit. Now, the first one was, person who is availing input tax credit should be in possession of a tax paying document. Refer to rule number 36 in understanding what are the different types of tax paying documents that are to be there. So more or less everyone who is buying goods will definitely expect an invoice from the vendor. And this invoice can be digital or physical, both are permitted. What should be the content of the invoice is given in rule number 46. Yeah. The new addition that happened in the input tax credit is 16 subsection 2 clause A. The first one is 16 subsection 2 clause AA, wherein it says the invoice details. It's not that you have the invoice, that supplier should have furnished the invoice, and the details of it we will again see in rule 36 sub rule 4. This is again more specifically mentioned. The next condition we all know, mere having invoices doesn't work. You should also receive goods and services. That means bill trading is not permitted. Is it like you have excess input tax credit? You can't just pass on the input tax credit to someone by raising an invoice and transferring the credit. That's not permitted. You should have received the goods. Perfect. So assuming point 1, point 2, point 3 satisfied. The government further says, whatever the details of the input tax credit which has been mentioned in respect of this said supply, which is communicated by this person by way of GSTR1, shouldn't have been restricted. It says this is the new provision. Again, one has to know this shouldn't have been restricted under section 38, right? Lastly, we have another important challenge which has been in various courts, and the challenge is this taxes has been actually paid to the government. This is another condition, that the supplier should have paid the taxes to the government. Now you may ask that how can I verify that the supplier has paid the taxes to the government? See, I have no ability mechanism to verify. For a moment, people used to say, okay, check whether he has filed his GSTR 3B. Mere filing of GSTR 3B doesn't say these taxes have been paid by to the government or not. So to couple these two provisions, the government has amended section 38 and also inserted a new rule, rule number 37A. So this new rule 37A gives even more power the government to withdraw or take back the credit which is already with you. So if you have availed the credit, but the supplier for some reason not paid the taxes, government will take it back. And lastly, very valid thing, you should be filing the returns. Like, this is another important point. There are differences between the provisions of the input tax credit erstwhile laws between excise, service tax and VAT versus GST. Availment means availment into your electronic credit ledger. Just because you are recording it as a credit in your book doesn't give you as a credit. You should be filing your GSTR 3B, report it as a credit and record it into your electronic credit ledger. Only then it becomes a valid input tax credit. Now, let's look at these conditions one by one. Of course, I'll leave those which are the old one, like tax paying document and other things. Looking the first one, which is the details should have been furnished by the supplier. This is rule 36 sub rule 4, where the input tax credit has to be availed by the registered person. It could be in respect of invoices or debit notes, provided the details have been uploaded by the supplier in GSTR1, or if it is a quarterly filer, invoice furnishing facility. It is mandatory that these details have been furnished. Not just that, please note, just because the supplier has filed GSTR1 doesn't entitle you credit. You have another condition, that information should have been communicated to you as a recipient in GSTR2B. So rule 60 sub rule 7, where they have said the communication should happen by way of GSTR2B. Now, what does this mean? It means this supplier should be filing the returns. The supplier should be filing the returns within the due date. If the supplier doesn't file the returns within the due date, it would be GSTR1, it would be visible in GSTR2A, but it will not be there in 2B. The difference between 2A and 2B I'll come in a while, but you should be taking the credit only when it is visible in 2B. This is one condition that has been implemented, made effective. From when it has been made effective, time to time, various dates. Initially till 8th October 2019, there was no concept of this. Starting from 9th October 2019, this has been implemented, where they said up to 20% over and above the credits that are visible, you are allowed to take. But till that point, they were only referring to the invoices furnished by the supplier within the due date. Concept of 2B was not there then. It got introduced much later. This 120% reduced to 110, then to 105, standing Jan 22 last year, which means a year from now, the government is very clear, there cannot be any provisional ITC. If the supplier is filing on time and visible in your portal, only then you can take the credit. This is the first condition which the newly one introduced. Second, Now the credit is visible in my GST or 2B. So this is another important condition. We are now moving to section 16, subsection 2, clause BA. So the section 38 has been amended. Last Finance Act has amended the section 38 and they said, you will not get input tax credit. You will not get input tax credit if you are buying from a supplier who is newly registered. You have purchased, supplier has filed GSTR1, he has filed within the due date, it is visible in GSTR2B. Still, if you are making a purchases from such suppliers, you will not be getting input tax credit. However, the government is going to form a detailed rules. The rules for this has not been notified yet. Maybe it is like at a rapid pace, there's been changes that are happening, but very soon this will get notified, so be aware. Now, what could be the situation they would say? They may say if it is a newly registered person, maybe up to 10 lakhs or up to, I'm just giving you a hypothetical, up to X amount, only the input tax credit can be passed on. Or the input tax credit will be shown as restricted till he files the GST or 3B. It could be anything they may bring in. So currently in your GST or 2B, it is showing that eligible, ineligible, whether that credit is available or not available. So these kind of additional reporting restrictions that would come in your GST or 2B. This one thing you should be aware. So how will you know that the supplier is newly registered? So again in GST or GSTzen, you have a feature where you can upload the GST number. You can get the status of the supplier, when has been registered, whether it is active or not. So Bharti, you can also show them how do we get the supplier details from our the help desk. Second thing is, okay, he is not a newly registered supplier, he is an old supplier, but supplier has filed GSTR1, but GSTR3B is not filed. Even then it gets restricted. Supplier has filed GSTR1, has filed GSTR3B, but in his GSTR1, his liability that he has reported is say 100 rupees, but in GSTR3B, the liability that he has reported is 80 rupees. So there is a shortage of 20 rupees. Now, again, the input tax credit will be restricted. To whom? Let's say that 20 rupees out of say 100 customers, 80 rupees he has paid, 80 customers, will it be restricted? 20 customers. Unfortunately, there's no concept of FIFO basis. Eventually, all the 100 would get restricted. This is like all the things which you are seeing on the screen are going to be a very draconian provisions. Next, okay, his liability in R1 and 3B is perfect. So you should be happy. But his input tax credit that he has availed in 3B is much higher than 2B. It's like he has reported 100 liability in R1, 100 liability in 3B also. But input tax credit in his 2B, let's say it is only 60 rupees, but he has reported 70 rupees. And only 30 he has paid in cash, as against 40 he should be paying in cash. I would be wondering that how you as a is like a buyer, how can you go and check all these things? But unfortunately, these are the conditions you should be aware. So under GST, you need to know whom you are dealing with, what is the compliance level of that person with whom you are dealing with. So getting to know the compliance status of that person is very important. The next, okay, he has assuming that, okay, 3B is matching, 3B credit and 2B is matching, everything is happening. But his liability every month he is paying only through ITC and other than and not in cash. How you might be kind of wondering that in spite of all this, will still be like there is an issue? Yes. So like we know rule 86 sub rule B, where there are restrictions that, okay, who all should pay, and government is expecting at least 1% of the taxes to be paid in cash. 99% you can pay through credit. So your credit is also at risk when some of the suppliers has paid entire their liability through credit. Again, you are at a next level risk. the lastly, which is like an anonymous thing. None of these conditions are violated, but the government may say a class of person they will prescribe. So they'll say, okay, these are like blacklisted. In RBI, time to time they release some list of vendors saying willful defaulters, so that the bank should not give any loans to these people. So likewise, they would now start publishing, okay, these are the GST numbers, you shouldn't be buying, else your credit will be restricted. So now this here is a situation where you have purchases visible in 2B, but still your credit is blocked or restricted. You will not be getting the credit of it. So you got to be very careful in making the procurement and looking at the supplier filing status. So you should be constantly watching whether the supplier is filing GSTR1 on time or not. If they are not filing one on time, then it is some problem. Your credit will get deferred by 1 month. Now you may say, it's only 1 month, will it be okay? Imagine a situation. Let's say I am a let's say I'm a dealer of, say, mobile phones. Okay. Now I have procured a consignment worth 50 lakhs and the tax liability thereon is 9 lakhs. I will be selling at, say, 60 lakhs. I'll be selling these at I'm a wholesale trader. I'm selling this at 60 lakhs, 20% margin. End of the month, for 60 lakhs at 18%, right? I will have to discharge my GST. In a normal course, since I have an input tax credit of 9 lakhs, my tax liability is 10 lakh 80,000 rupees. 1 lakh 80,000 I will be paying by cash, 9 lakh I'll be paying by credit. My margin is 10 lakhs. But the supplier has defaulted filing the returns. What will happen? I will end up paying entire 10 lakh 80,000 in cash and not in credit. So you should be having a visibility when all the dates the suppliers are filing their GSTR1. So that is very much important. When the supplier is filing the GSTR1 is very important. You should be having that status. Second, if he is not filing 3B, again, the credits are going to be restricted. You should be having a check on that. So government has now introduced. So first of the point, the government has introduced. So this is the point which I am going to stress upon today. That supplier has filed R1 but did not file the 3B. So they have notified a rule for this. So they notified Rule 37A and they have given a mechanism for reversal and reavailment of the input tax credit. Firstly, they are saying that the input tax credit to be reversed, you have availed, you would have utilized also. But the government is saying, if the supplier is not filing the GSTR 3B, he filed GSTR1 for some reason, technical reasons, non-technical reason, willful default, whatever it is, he has not filed the GSTR 3B up until 30th November. Now, the September due date concept has been deferred to 30th November. All this while, it is the return due date of September, which would have been 20th October. So 20th October has now moved to 30th November. If up until 30th November, the supplier has not filed the GSTR 3B, then you should be reversing the input tax credit that you have availed. You should be reversing the input tax credit that you have availed. And the government is saying, compute the interest. If you are not doing the reversal by 30th November, ideally you will be reversing the credit on in the November return. You will check till 30th November. On 20th December. So you will end up paying interest for 20 days. So whatever the credits that you did not reverse by 30th November, you pay interest. At what rate? 50 subsection 1 at the rate of 18%. What happens if the supplier files it, pays the taxes subsequently? If the supplier is filing the taxes subsequently, thankfully, in this case, they did not use word GSTR 3B. But how will you know if they are paying through DRC 03? Second question, but they're saying re-avail the same if the same is subsequently discharged by the supplier. So actually, this is the verbatim reproduction of the thing. Now, here is one point which I want to highlight. Let's again look at it. So they are saying reversal of the input tax credit in case of non-payment of the tax by the supplier and re-availment thereof. So if the input tax credit has been availed by you in form GSTR 3B, basis their GSTR 1, but such supplier did not file the GSTR 3B. He did not file the GSTR 3B till 30th day of the September. Till that date, he did not file. Then till by 30th November, you have to reverse it in your GSTR 3B. This might be creating a problem while reporting in your annual returns. If you have reversed this credit by 30th November, you will be reporting into table 12 of R9. But if you are not reversing it, then it has to be paid through DRC 03. The next question that comes, otherwise, because the challenge that will come is, how will you establish in which form, which table you have reversed? And that is where the government is also amending GSTR 3B. Hopefully, from April, we might get a new form of 3B. And if you're surprised, again, one more change, yes, there is one more change likely to happen. So if you are not reversing it on or before 30th November, the government is saying the said person has to pay interest in section 50, which is at the rate of 18%. All right. So if the said supplier furnishes his form GSTR 3B, now this is where, which I'm saying, that the government is saying that he is if it is paid through 3B, then you can re-avail the credit. But what happens if he is paying through 3B in DRC 03 and giving you a declaration? This is another challenge. That means you have to track the filing status of your vendors GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. You need to have a mechanism. Like you may say, sir, I have 100 suppliers. Every month, do I have to check? Answer is yes, if you want to be more compliant. Else, at least once in a year, do an yearly check. Again, in a while, Bharti will show how we can use that, right? So these are the major changes that have come. And in the interest of others, I'll also walk you through the other provisions that are relevant. The another provisions is the 16th subsection 4, where you have to reverse the input tax credit. If you have to avail the input tax credit by 30th November of the next financial year. Next, the input tax credit you can be availing on every purchase other than the blocked credit. 17 subsection 5 of the Act talks about the blocked credit, which is motor car, food and beverages, insurance, employee, travel, etc. Various things. Those are blocked credit. There are other credits which are blocked basis usage. If your purchases are towards the taxable supplies or exports or zero rated supplies, ITC is available. But if it is towards exempt or non-taxable or for personal reasons, ITC is not available. There could be a situation where the ITC is commonly used for both. They have given under Rule 42 and 43 mechanism to utilize it. So I'll not spend much time on the thing, but I thought I'll quickly walk you through. So these are the provisions of the allowance. How do I use it? The utilization mechanism. First, IGST has to be used towards IGST liability. Then it can be used to CGST or SGST in any order. But when it comes to CGST, you can use it to CGST, and the leftover you can use it to IGST. SGST you will be using to SGST. The leftover would be used to the IGST. The cross utilization between CGST and SGST is not permitted. Here, one point which I would like to mention, the obligation on the law side, you exhaust your IGST liability first. Then in any manner you can use between CGST and SGST. Portal in a normal course, it will allocate everything to the CGST. If you think you also have a CGST credit balance which is there, you might choose, you utilize the IGST towards SGST And why I have given it in equal format, so that you can always have an equal order in which the cash liability to be paid. I have noticed there are many people who will have credit balance in their CGST ledger and they will end up paying SGST in cash. So this is something you can avoid by editing the IGST credit, which is auto-populated. Moving further, this is the rule 86B, which I have mentioned, that the restriction, there are category of notified persons. So if it is a proprietor, etc., provided the income tax payment is less than a lakh, so they are expecting at least 1% of the outward liability to paid through electronic cash ledger and not the credit ledger. So what's the difference between 2A and 2B? This is one question people generally ask. See, 2A is mirror replica of GSTR1. If GSTR1 is filed in the month of, let's say, April, GSTR1 filed in the month of December, 2A will still be of April. So GSTR 2A is a mirror replica of GSTR 1. While GSTR 2B has been introduced in July 20, stating that credit should be time restricted. So suppliers who are filing the credits up until 11th, which is the due date, or 13th IFF due date, people filing the R1 on that date, the credit flows to 2B of that month. People who are filing late, the credit flows to 2B of the subsequent month. That means on a shorter duration between 2A and 2B, there will be some mismatch. But on a longer horizon, both 2A and 2B will be matching. Both 2A and 2B will be matching. So 2A is more based on the date of the invoice which is there in the return period. I would stress more upon the word return period for 2A, but 2B is more on the filing date. So in the month of Jan 23, you may be creating credits in 2B pertaining to April 22 also and December 22 also. But 2A of Jan 23 will always have all those GSTR ones of Jan 23 filed by the suppliers. So this is one difference. By now, most of you have been aware. Question always comes is, which one I should relay? Should I relay 2A or 2B? In my view, both are important. 2B is only for the outer work. If you are doing a YTD reconciliation of the credits, you can use 2B. If you are doing a month-to-month reconciliation of the credits, then you should be using 2A. How do I report this? This is also recently changed, where the table 4 have been moved from small correction, and this 3B is further going to change from the April. So you got to be well geared up. Firstly, they have amended the 4B and 4D. The concept itself they have amended. They are now saying avail entire credit which is there in 2B into 4A5. Earlier, we used to take the credit whatever is eligible in 4A5, ineligible in 4D. So my GSTR 2A or 2B used to be matching with when I add this plus this, it used to match. The government is saying now in a different way. Government saying, okay, report everything here. And whatever you think is ineligible, then you reverse it. And the reversal is also taken into two concepts. This is a permanent reversal where you think that, okay, this credit you will not avail. If it is a temporary reversal, it will be going to 4B2. So this is what it has been coming up. So if I have to give you, 4B1 is a permanent reversal, 4B2 is a temporary reversal. How do you make the availment? Yeah, here is the thing. Entire credit, whatever the credit which is there in GSTR 2B, where ITC has been marked as eligible, take that into your 4A5. So take that into your 4A5. If they have marked it into ineligible, take it to 4D2. Why will it be ineligible? If the place of supply is not equivalent to the location of the recipient, it's not LOS, it is LOR. And GSTR 1 of the filed after the after the due date, then you do not take the credit. Okay. But most of the credits will be marked as ineligible. Out of those marked as eligible, you are now applying section 16 and 17 conditions. You are checking whether eligible at your end. See, portal will not know whether it is a motor vehicle purchase or anything. So all those credits you will segregate as ineligible and ineligible. Both eligible and ineligible, the common thing is you will be reporting this in the table 4A5. You will be reporting in 4A5. But if it is eligible, you don't need to reverse. If it is ineligible, you will reverse it. This is called permanent reversal. This is called permanent reversal. But you want to avail it in the future period, then you will reverse it into 4B2. You will reverse into 4B2. This is your a temporary reversal. This is one thing one should be very clear, that the reversal is permanent and temporary. Whatever which is reversed temporarily, it can be reavailed at a later point in time. It can be reavailed later point in time. Earlier, we have reversed something in 4D2. The reavailment at a later point in time is 4D1. It is a reporting information only for D1. You will still have to report it into 4A5 and again report it into 4D1. So every month, whatever you have reported earlier period, 4B2, you can check and add it back to your 4A5. So the current month 4A5 should match with the GSTR2B. If it is not matching, there should be an entry in 4D1. So the total credit, if you want to match with the GSTR2B, it should be 4A5 and 4D2. These are the things that you should be aware of. How do I handle the temporary credit reversal? The month in which is like why I will also have temporary is I have not received the goods or the invoice is not recorded in the accounts. It could be anything could happen. So the temporary credits are first reported in 4A5 and reversed in temporarily in 4B2. In the subsequent month, again you will report it in 4A5. Again, you will report it into 4D1. So which means you are reporting happening twice because there is a reversal happened once. This is the change that one should be mindful of. So if I have to give a simple example, let's say month 1, I have a credit of 150 rupees in the books in 2B, but my books has in month 2. So how will I report? In month 1, I'll report 150 rupees. I will reverse 150 rupees. My net availed is only 0. It is a nil. I have not availed anything. In month 2, my 2B has nothing. My 2B is actually 0. But I will still report 150. Now you may say 150 plus 150 total credit that you have reported for the year could be 300. You may say that. But there is also some reversal happened earlier, 150 rupees. That means the net credit that you have availed is 150, which is already there in the portal. The month in which you are re-reporting, you should be ensuring there is a correlation between value in your 4B2 and 4D1. There is a correlation between the value in 4B2 and 4D1. This is another point you should be very careful of. How will GST then assist in optimizing all this? These are the various challenges. In a while, my colleague Bharti would be showing you how it can happen. Firstly, I am a biggest advisor of use of the technology. When you use the technology, so the GST then is a cloud-based application. It will help you in actually reconciling huge volume of data. When the volume of the data is large, volumes of that kind are easily handled. That is point number 1. Second, you might want to do a reconciliation frequently. See, it is practically not possible to use VLOOKUP pivots and suddenly some number has been changed, so you will use a wild character. All those things is a very challenging thing. Once in a while you can do it, but every month you have to do it. And not for the month, for the YTD. For example, standing today, Jan 23, you might want to do a reconciliation of what happened to my July credits if something is changed or not. So that is more important. So again, reconciliation on a frequently basis. you can use GST Zen. What happens with the missing credit? How do you track it? How do you report to the vendor? How do you write an email and say that, hey, look, this credit is missing. Please send a reminder saying that upload in your GSTR1 or the invoices. Maybe he would have given the wrong GST number, or you have not given the GST number. He would have put it under B2C. It could be anything, but you need to track. After tracking it, you need to follow up with the vendors, right? So this tool will Zen will help you to send automatically reminders, and you want to do a track of, okay, which are all the people who have filed their R1 or who filed R1 late. When did they file 3B or not? Today it is very important. Whether they filed a 3B or not is very important. One person you can check, but it is again humongous task to check 10 persons, 15. So today time is money. So if instead of spending one day in checking all of that, you load 100 numbers, press a button, you'll be able to download the data. Again, we will see how that happens. Next, PAN level matching. Sometimes it might so happen that the supplier has issued the bill in the name of head office while the goods have been dispatched to the branch. Branch has recorded as the purchase and availed the input tax credit. These reconciliations can also be done, saying that, look, this is matching at a PAN level and not GST number, and those you can deal with the vendors separately, right? And lastly, the new provision, vendors who have not filed 3B and you have availed the credits in the respective 2B, that is also we will be able to track and give you. So before I go to the demo, so these are the various things which I have. So before we get on to the demo, let us look at the questions if you have any. Bharti, let's take the questions, then we'll go to the demo.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, first. What are the provisions if we have filed GSTR1 wrongly arising in liability now? In the case while filing GSTR3B, how the same has to be adjusted? So Pradeep, section 75 of the Act has been amended, saying the GSTR1 will also be treated as self-assessed tax. So if you are instead of reporting 100 rupees, you have reported 1000 rupees. The best thing is correct it in the next month. Anyhow, the department will issue ASMT 10 for the difference. You can always say that I have corrected it and this is my actual liability. Next, you have a follow-up question asking only one entry per tax rate is allowed to be filed in GSTR1 later. We require to convert the B2C to B2B, thus filing required to add an invoice. How to capture? Yes, this is another challenge. If you are making an amendment more than once, that is not possible. Today, the way system is set, whether B2B or B2C record, you can amend it only once. So you got to be careful. Again, use of software. Like in GST Zen, people who use GST Zen for filing their R1 and 3B, they sync their sales register. E-invoice data, e-way bill data also comes in. It gets the reconciliation. You will get a visibility of how many records which are there in e-invoice, not in books, or how many are in books, not in e-invoice. What action you want to take? You want to delete them? You want to do it? All those things are very important. So that is why, again, I say use a tool every time. Karthik is asking, is there any turnover limit provided for the payment of taxes through ITC? Karthik, there is no turnover limit, but refer Rule 86B. They have given a notified vendors, suppliers, taxpayers. If you are falling under that category, then 1% tax to be paid in cash. Gopinath is asking, in 2B, last date is 11th, but it also reflects invoices were filed after 11th. Yeah, Gopinath, there could be a situation where the supplier could have been in a quarterly filer where he is using IFF, invoice furnishing facility. So GSTN, in order to avoid the load shedding, they gave due date for R1 as 11, due date for IFF as 13th. So you might have on 13th midnight when the 2B is generated. So there will be invoices from IFF which would be flowing through it. Question from Ravi. The 2B number to be taken in 4FI is net credit or gross credit? Ravi, it has to be gross credit. your reversal on account of credit notes should be reported in your 4B1, a permanent reversal. Amir, please share the PPT. Yes, you would be getting a copy of the PPT to the registered email ID, whichever is the ID which you have registered, you will be getting a copy after the webinar. Next, Sudhakar, how to treat purchase credit note as per the filing GST R3B. Yeah, this is what, Sudhakar. You report the gross credit in 4A5 and the reversal in 4B1, a permanent reversal. All right, so with this, we have addressed all the questions, and here are the coordinates to reach us for the demo or the usage of the software. And any GST related queries, you can ping to me veno@vnv.ca. So with this, I come to end of my session. Let me stop the screen and hand it over to Bharti, who will be doing the demo of the application.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. Now I'll be showing you the demo of the software and explaining how it will help you in compliance.
1 minute, I'm unable. Yeah, okay.
I hope my screen is visible to all of you.
Not yet, Bharti. Yes.
Okay, so let me begin. So once you have signed up to GST you can add all your GST numbers here. So whichever GST number is added will also show the recent filing status of GSTR1, 3B and GSTR9. To perform a function for any GST number, what you have to do is you have to select that GST number. So after selecting, it is redirected to this page and various options are available within the quick actions menu. So under download a report, a person can download their full year GSTR1. They can also download the list of e-invoices. They can download 2A, 2B, full year GSTR 3B, ITC 04, electronic ledger report, as well as e-way bills. Now, the most important part of filing GSTR 3B would be your ITC calculation. For that, you would require your purchase register to be reconciled with GSTR 2B. So we provide that reconciliation here. You have purchase register with GSTR 2B. Besides that, you also have purchase register with GSTR 2A, sales register with GSTR 1, and sales register with GSTR1 e-invoices. So you would be able to check what is there in GSTR1 and what e-invoices were created and compare them to your sales register. So now I'll show you a demo of the GSTR2B reconciliation. The process is very easy here. There are 3-4 steps that need to be followed and you would have a report. So the first step would be to log into the government portal with OTP or username password. Okay, once logged in, you select the information you want to download and click on download data from the government portal. Once it is downloaded, it will show you a green tick. Since 2B is static, does not change. So once downloaded, it does not require a re-download of data. Next step is to upload the purchase register. So the purchase register can be uploaded through an Excel or direct Tally integration. So in case of Excel, you can upload your own file or you can use the format provided by GST Zen. So I'm just choosing my file here. Select the format. And then what you have to do is you have to map your file. So supplier GST number is coming from which field of my Excel. All the fields, the headings in the Excel would be imported here and it will be present in the drop down. So you can select the supplier GST number is coming from which column of the Excel. Similarly, you can map other fields. There are mandatory fields which are star marked and others are optional. So once this mapping is done And if you re-upload the same format, the settings will automatically preload for you as it is showing in my case. So I upload the file. It will just take a few seconds. I have 503 invoices in my Excel. Some of those invoices have errors. So those are not uploaded and are not part of this summary. So I can correct those and re-upload. If I just want to save my data, which is the correct data, I can confirm and save entries. Okay. So now that the purchase register has been uploaded, we have completed the first two steps. We have downloaded the data from the government portal and uploaded our purchase register. Next step is to run the matcher. It will ask for two parameters, maximum days difference and maximum tax amount difference. A person can input as per their business practice. So this, when I run this program, this is running a query wherein it is matching the portal invoices with the invoices in GST Zen, essentially your purchase register that you have uploaded. So now that the matcher has run, the last step is to download the reconciliation report. So we have various bases on which we provide the reconciliation report. First basis is the invoice date. So if I go for invoice date and I'm downloading the December report, it will only contain the invoices which are dated December, as in any invoice which is of November, dated, let's say 25th of November, will not come in this report. So invoice date of 20th December, 1st December will be there in this report. Second is GSTR 3B claim period. This information you can provide while uploading your purchase register. There is a separate column that you can use to upload this information. There might be an invoice of October GST, which came dated October, which you are claiming in December. So you provide the record date of December for this invoice while you upload, and then you can download this December report based on GST R3B claim period, and you would be able to see this invoice. This will help you in segregating what ITC are you claiming in December. We have other options as well of segregating that, but this you can upload with your purchase register. The last option is the reconciliation based on to be filing period. So this, let's again, if we are talking about GSTR to be of December, there might be some invoices of September or October that have been reported in GSTR 1 of December. So those will come in this report. Somebody might have filed their November return late. So that will also come in GSTR 2B of December. So the last report is as per the filing period. So you can download the individual monthly report, or you can get the yearly report. So I'm just showing you the yearly report here. This is what the report looks like. And if you see this sheet is giving you the reconciliation results. So the invoices highlighted in yellow are present only in books. The invoices which are highlighted in blue are present only in portal, as in there is no corresponding entry in your books for it. The invoices which are in green have been mashed. Now, what should be done with those results? So there are invoices which are there only in books. So it means that the supplier has not filed or filed late. So in that case, you can review it later, check whether the supplier has filed on a later date, or you can email the supplier regarding this invoice. Invoice present only in portal. So there might be a cause for that. You can review later, or it might be because the invoice has been wrongly uploaded to your GST number by the supplier. Instead of let's say there are two parties A and B. Instead of creating the sales invoice against party A, it has created against party B. So that in that case, it would be a wrong invoice by supplier. You can choose that. And once invoice is matched, you can choose to lock match that this is correct. Then you can also provide the ITC eligibility, or somewhere if it is matched, you're not claiming it because it is ineligible. So you can also mark that ITC claim status: accepted or rejected, pending, accept and reverse. Then the last thing, last few columns here, you can provide the claim date. When are you actually claiming it? Let's say the invoice has come, as Venu sir had discussed. It might have come in your 2B, but you might not have received the goods, or the goods are pending approval. So you're not claiming it right now. You can leave the claim date as blank. For other invoices, you can provide the claim date. When you have input all the information in here, and in any case you want to provide the reconciliation notes, you can also provide that. Once this is done, there is a tab called GST Zen in the Excel that you would download. Essentially, this is an additional feature of the macros downloaded from GST Zen. You can save all this information and then click on update. So all of this information that you have provided from column AN to AR would be uploaded to GST Zen. And the next time you download, let's say a YTD report, let's say you have downloaded till December now. Now you downloaded the 2B of January and you uploaded the purchase register of January. There might be some invoices which you had not claimed earlier, or there might have been some invoices which were there only in books. So when they are matched, the invoices which do not have a claim date that has been provided by you, you would get to know that these are the invoices which are newly matched. So these are the invoices I have to claim in this month, where there is no claim date. Plus, GST Zen will also provide you the amendments versus original. So if there are any amendments that have come up in this month, you would see a list of that, as well as what was the original against it. And in this sheet, we would match the purchase invoice with the amended entry and not the original. So you would see that the correct matching has been done here, and you would have the document type as INVA, that is the amended value. And against the original, you would have amended cancelled as yes. So this is how it would help you in tracking your ITC. Another thing that you need to check now is whether the supplier has filed their GSTR 3B. So for that, we have provided an additional tool now. So in GST Zen, when you go to useful tools, you have this GST return filing status. So in here, you can paste any number of GST numbers. You can paste the GST numbers here and get the filing status for those GST numbers. At this point of time, I'm only checking for one. I paste the GST number here, and I can select whether I want the yearly status, as in the status for all the months in a financial year, or do I want for a specific month. I'm selecting yearly and selecting the financial year as 20 to 23.
Select 21, 22. So that longer details should be. Yeah, no, 20 to 23 also decent. Yeah, we have completed till
Yeah,
December.
20 to 23. Yeah. We have until December, sir.
Yeah.
So that should be fine. Okay. So I can also change the period from here. It is yearly. I can check for a few months. So it will show you the number of GSTs here. It will show you the cost as well as the total cost per GST number and the total cost. If I select a particular month, That will also change here. I'm just selecting yearly and I'll click on download. So you can see that within a few seconds, it is giving me that report. So now for the whole financial year till December, I can see the report. So I have the GST number, the taxpayer name for that GST number, financial year, return type. It will give you the filing status for GSTR1 and GSTR3B. So you have the dates of filing for each month till December. So you can also check whether the supplier is compliant and filing their returns on time. So if you see this vendor, you would see that all of them have been most of them have been filed within the due date, except this September return. And GSTR3B has been filed within the mostly has been filed within the due date. So you can assign a rating based on that. You can ensure whether the supplier is filing and whether you want to continue purchasing your inputs from them. If you want to continue relationship with them based on their filing record. This provision is under pay as you go, and if you are a Pro Plus subscriber of GSTZ, this facility would be a part of your subscription plan. Let me show you. One moment.
So this is where I have said if you are user, so you can check this any number of times, and you have 100,000 customers, you can upload it in an Excel, comma separated, semicolon, space separated, and you will be able to download this any number of times, how much ever whatever frequency you are looking at.
Yeah, so if I now I'm logged into a Pro Plus user. So if I check for the same GST number here, I can see that there is no cost for me checking this status. So if you are a Pro Plus subscriber of GSTZ, you can check any number of GST numbers and any number of times. So I would get the same report here. That would be within that would be a part of my subscription plan. So we have completed the demo part of the software. If any of you has any questions, please feel free to ask us.
Yes, some of the questions that have come up, I have answered those questions. If there is any question which is unanswered, you would like to unmute yourself and ask, you can do so. And thank you, Bharti. We are actually bang on time. So both theory and the demo has completed on time. Thank you. Any questions to the participants? I hope I have answered all the questions. Maybe if you have any question, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Arvindji.
Sir, if an invoice is is shown in my 2B, and I have physically invoice with me, but I would like to take the input in next month. Can I do this?
Yeah, so the way you have to do it you have to report it in your 4A5, report it into 4B2. And the month in which again you are availing it. Like ideally, that is what I have said, the month in which you are availing, in that next month, you will again report this under 4A5 and 4D1, which is re-reporting of reversal credit. That is the procedure in which you should do. You can do it, but you should follow the procedure in which it has to be done.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right. So with this, we come to the end of today's webinar. We will be having our sessions frequently, which are more to do with the knowledge update and the practical issues which the traders, dealers are filing, and how they are facing the challenge. We are coming up with more new features. We have been noticing that a lot of notices are coming. So we have a new development. Maybe I think our next demo will be where automatically we will, like how you are able to see your GSTR1 and 3B filings, you will also be able to see what are all the notices that have come. So that is another tool that would be shown up maybe in the next month. We are also coming up with the notice management. So we will be giving a help desk type where you can upload the notice, where our expert team will give you an answer that needs to be submitted. So we are coming up that. We have improved our APIs. There are a lot of APIs. So if you want to integrate this reporting instead of doing an Excel upload and download the status, there are enriched APIs. You sync your purchase register, automatically you will find a field in your books of account, like a standard software like Tally. In Tally, you will see whether the vendor matching is done in 2A, 2B or not. It will be visible inside the voucher in Tally itself. So with a green and blue and red different colors. Before you making the payment, you can be assured that, okay, yes, GST credit is visible and you're kind of doing an invoice level matching in your books of accounts. So feel free to get in touch in terms of using all these services. Thank you.
Sir,
And have a good day.
Sir, there are
Yes.
few questions in the chat.
Which one? In
When-
GSTN validator, details are not fetched on live basis. Legal name is same as the trade name in case of the proprietor. So Karthik, yes, made observation of it. If you can send the GST number, I will check. I will see because this data is taken from the portal, maybe the e-waybill portal. We'll check and update on that. Leaving this, all the questions I have answered, Utkarsh.
One question has been asked by Mr. Rajkumar.
Yeah, our vendor has filed R1 and 3B on time, but have not paid invoice payment within 180 days. Whether we can claim ITC or not. So you can claim the ITC the month in which you have purchased. You have an obligation to pay within 6 months, that is 180 days. If you are not making within 180 days, end of that, you will be reversing it. You cannot continue making the claim because you have not made the payment to the vendor. As per Rule 37, you have to reverse the claim. And whenever you are making the payment, maybe 5 years, 10 years later, you can re-avail those credits. Yeah. So Mukherjee is asking, how can I get the software for use? Mukherjee, let me again share the coordinates. So here are the coordinates. Please get in touch with you can just write to us. So our team will get in touch with you in terms of how to use the software. Should I add ITC ineligible separately? Gopinath sir, your question is not clear. Maybe you can ask the question. Shri Ganesh is asking, getting the original tax invoice from vendor is mandatory to claim input tax credit. You need to have a document, whether it is original, duplicate, really doesn't matter. Rule 36 doesn't envisage. Rule 46 is the compliance by the supplier. Rule 36 is the compliance from the vendor supplier. Pradeep is asking, can my GST 9 and 9C be different? Of course, 9 and 9C will be different, Pradeep. Yeah, these are the questions.
Yeah, sir. So please feel free if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll wrap the session.
Yeah. So to all the registered email ID, you'll be getting the copy of the presentation and also the recording of the session. Thank you. Good day.
Thank you. Thank you all.